I'm Commissioner Christian Leinbach, and I want to welcome you to our Berks County Commissioners Weekly Update. The program today is going to be focusing on the Berks County CARES Grant Program. I want to welcome everyone on the call and the program. We're live on Microsoft Teams. We're also live on BCTV and Facebook Live and YouTube Live. If you would like to make a comment or ask a question, first of all, it needs to be germane to the topic today and include your first and last name as well as the municipality where you reside. Just simply respond in the social media platform that you're on or in Microsoft Teams. If you're from the media and you have a question, please give us your name and the media you represent. Obviously, the CARES Act is something that was passed back in the spring. Has provided significant funding for states and local governments to be used to help businesses, organizations, institutions as they deal with the severe economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. This effort in Berks County has been led by Commissioner Kevin Barnhart, and he is going to be leading most of the meeting today. For some opening comments, though, I want to turn first to Commissioner Michael Rivera. Commissioner Rivera.
Commissioner Leinbach, thank you very much, and I want to welcome everyone who's viewing this show here today. I guess you would say, excited about where we are at today. The Small Business Grant Program, the New Start Grant Program, that closed last Wednesday. Within a week or a week and a half, we should have all the input on that and who will be the grant people receiving the grants. We know that our small businesses are suffering very much, so we're excited for that. Also very excited for what we're going to be talking about today, because not only have our small businesses suffered, but our nonprofits have suffered. Our institutions, educational institutions have suffered. Our municipalities, just all over the board, there's been a lot of economic impact, and this CARES grant money allocation is going to help to some extent normalize these institutions. So I want to thank Commissioner Barnhart, Pam Shupp, Jessica for the work that they've been doing in this. And I also want to thank all the volunteers that have agreed to help in this process, because as we have mentioned before, the three of us are not going to be making the decision as to who's getting the money, who's not, and how much. It's an independent group because we want to make this, keep this as far away from politics as possible so that the money gets to the people that really deserve it and really need it. So thank you to all who have put their time and effort into this process to be able to help out our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Rivera. As I noted in the beginning, the CARES Act program has been overseen by the Vice Chair of our board, Commissioner Kevin Barnhart. And at this time, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Commissioner Kevin Barnhart, and he will be ably assisted by his executive assistant, Jess Blauser. Welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Leinbach. Thank you, Commissioner Rivera, and everyone who has joined us on this call today. It's a wonderful day to celebrate that we're finally here. We're rounding third base. We're coming home with this CARES Act program. I want to thank my colleagues for the trust you have instilled in the faith and trust you put in me to lead this effort, but it certainly was not just me, obviously. And I want to start out by thanking Ron Seaman for his leadership, Pam Shupp on her tireless efforts to get this documentation and presentation and grading system put together, Justin Luce, our IT director, Stephanie Weaver, a public information officer, Jessica Blauser, who you hear from toward the end of this program. She's my executive assistant. I couldn't do it without her. Lori Schneider, special thank you to her for building this CARES Act website for us. Kelly Lawback and Paul Bradshaw, who reside in our purchasing office, who are going to have an awful lot of work to do come middle of October and into November. Our Treasurer's Department, Linda Weaver especially, making sure these checks will get out to the community as soon as possible, and our Controller's Office. And our outside partners, Whit O'Brien, who has been guiding us through the grant process since July, and DCED through the Department of Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, has been very instrumental in helping us. So just a little background and history to how we got here, alluding to some of what Commissioner Leinbach had said. CARES Act money was distributed to the communities, counties specifically. Those larger than 500,000 population received direct grants from Washington in April. We are a population about 421,000, so we received our money in July, about July 13th, through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We received $38 million. And we knew at that time that we should have received much more than that. So at the end of June through the month of July, we put out a community needs assessment. Thank you to Justin Luce and his team for putting that out to gauge the needs of the community. We received 153 assessments. They were well in excess of the $38 million we have. So we estimated from those numbers that, in fact, the county should have received upwards of $75 to $80 million. And every indication we're receiving from DCED in our monthly call, there could be more money becoming available for Berks County toward the end of the year. To that end, we want to make sure we're prepared for that. We want to show DCED that we're following the rules and requirements and making sure this money is being put out to the proper organizations in a very systematic fashion, because the bottom line is if the county puts this money out to a community organization and it does not qualify or meet the parameters of the CARES Act, the county would actually have to reimburse the state and ultimately the federal government for misplaced money. We certainly want to do that. So you think about July 13th and you think here it is September 30th, but with the requirements, rules, regulations, and protocols and contracts and agreements, it takes that long for government to put money out the door. So I just want to say that again, that we have a great team here and we want to make sure that everyone is aware of this. We have put into place group mailing for organizations to forward this out to other people, word of mouth, social media. Thank you to the news media for being here today. This touches everyone's life in Berks County. 421,000 people need this support and this help, and it's going to be coming your way. And at this point, I think it's a good time to talk about the website, and recognizing what's behind most of us today is the CARES Act logo that was developed by Stephanie Weaver, and the countyofberks.com/cares is simply where you're going to go to look at these applications, which Pam Schupp will mention in a minute. So here's basically when you click on the countyofberks.com/cares, you will see Berks County Cares Grant Program and the 4 separate subsets involved in this. We have a very strict timeline. We actually launched this information this morning. The deadline to complete an application is October 16th. Why is that so short period of time? Again, we want to put this money out to its best use. So you will have sufficient time between today and October 16th to fill out the application. Now, this is definitely different than the community needs assessment. That was just an estimate of your needs. This is an actual application for funding. And what we decided to do as a board is not to make this a political decision by a board of 3 commissioners to decide who should get what appropriation of money and who should not, or who qualifies, who doesn't qualify. So thank you to my colleagues and others for developing a list of people that we reached out to last week. And every single one of these people who have volunteered accepted graciously because they know how important this is for the community. So in the 4 sets that we're going to be talking about this afternoon, we have six people on each group, which will meet the week after the application deadline closes, which is the week of the 20th to the 26th. They have a lot of work ahead of them for that week to look at the applications, rank them for their needs, and then present that in a kind of a blank form to the Board of Commissioners. It will be example, hey, if it's a not-for-profit and 200 not-for-profits applied, we're going to understand that 180 qualified, and that totals X number of millions of dollars. The board will approve that at a meeting on October 29th. And then by right to know request, the board will know after that vote is taken. Again, we're going to be in the blind with respect to who applied and who qualified with our volunteer teams. And then the public will know who is going to be receiving the money and the allocations. So the website's really easy to get to. It also is available on rebuildberks.com if you're familiar with Rebuild Berks, but it's also housed on the countyofberks.com website. So I want to introduce my panel today. I have Pamela Shook-Mennett, our Chief Administrative Officer and Economic Development Director for the County of Berks. Justin Luce, our Chief Information Officer for the County of Berks Information Systems, and Jessica Blauser, my Executive Assistant. At this point, I would like to turn over the topic and get into some of the more detailed analysis to Pam Shook and let you know by categories who is eligible for the grant program. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm really pleased to say that the needs assessment that was undertaken by Berks County was done with incredible thoughtfulness about where and how we could ascertain information from our community members that were so severely impacted by this. You heard Commissioner Rivera talk a little bit about our Small Business Restart Grant Program, and it was very important for us to get dollars out the door as quickly as we could to those businesses that we are hoping that we can support enough for them to remain in operation until they are able to increase their operating revenues. But other organizations have had their operating revenues severely impacted, and those consist of nonprofits, municipalities and authorities, educational institutions and those that provide services, and certainly in our nonprofit world, educational institutions and health organizations. So that I'd like to talk a little bit about how we got to each category, which was a result of information gathered through that needs assessment, and about how you might have a question about what category you fall into. One thing you're going to hear us stress throughout us talking about this program this afternoon is that we are here to help you. So if you have any questions at all, I really encourage you to reach out to the email address that we're providing, and we will also use the FAQs to be able to answer some of your questions. So the first category that I'd like to speak about for just a bit is the public health and health services category. We know that they've been, as I said, severely impacted, their general operating revenues, and it really is designed to be helping those providers, the institutions, and the organizations that have experienced increased costs as a result of having to alter their delivery of care to the community, specifically as it has related to COVID-19. So in this instance, under public health and services, the eligible applicants will be nonprofits, hospitals or clinics, for-profit hospitals or clinics with community benefit, nonprofit or for-profit organizations that operate residential, whether they were short or long-term facilities for those that are historically disenfranchised or are vulnerable populations, nonprofit or for-profit healthcare providers, and emergency medical services. In this particular category, you can apply for up to $100,000, or if you are serving a specific low to moderate income area of Berks County, you can actually apply for up to $150,000. The next category I'd like to talk about is municipalities and authorities. Berks County is home to over 72 municipalities, and we know that many of them, if not all, have obviously been severely impacted in their operating revenues as well, as they try and navigate at the local level, providing services to their residents as a result of COVID-19. So included in this category, we call it municipalities and authorities, because it's not just those municipalities, but also authorities that exist and are formed in Berks County that serve Berks County residents. In that particular category, you will be able to apply for up to $50,000. And we're asking for applicants to show that need from March 1st to September 30th. But we're also going to see a question on the application to really try and figure out what is the impact between October and December. As Commissioner Barnhart mentioned, we're hoping to start to queue up Berks County to be receiving additional dollars. So the monies that are available to municipalities and authorities are unfunded expenses due to COVID-19 that have not been able to be covered by any other program to that municipality or authority. In our nonprofit category, this is one that we believe is really going to generate a lot of interest. And so what we have done is add some priorities to this particular category. Under the nonprofit category, you must be categorized as either a 501c3 or a 501c19. Many of us are familiar with the C3 status, nonprofit. The C19 is actually an organization that services veterans. Under this particular category, you will be able to apply for up to $50,000, and we've provided priority to community libraries, food insecurity programs, treatment, recovery, mental health, and disability services, and we'd also like to give special consideration to those programs and services that are addressing our youth and aging populations. The one thing I do want to state is that these are for expenses that cannot be duplicated, so you cannot have received funds to address specific expenses that you're applying for. So these are unfunded expenses above and beyond what you have typically seen in 2019, and we cannot reimburse you for anything that is related to loss of donors. Again, we have prioritization within that particular group and encourage you to continue to check back to our FAQs throughout this application process, where we will continue to update information. The fourth category that we have is educational institutions and educational services. And certainly as a community, one thing that we've seen incredibly impacted is the delivery of our educational services. So whether or not it is for distance learning equipment, installation of protective equipment, unplanned, unbudgeted expenses, this category will address the education institutions, for-profit and not-for-profit, and those that provide educational services. Now, the Berks County Local Education Agency here is the BCIU, Berks County Intermediate Unit, so that will be eligible as well to apply for funds under the CARES program. And in this category, you will be able to receive up to $100,000. Again, what we're looking for is you to exhibit those expenses from March 1st through September 30th for which you can be reimbursed. So the uses, again, necessary expenditures incurred due to the public health emergency related to COVID-19. So any school districts in Berks County, Department of Education recognized educational institutions, as I mentioned, for-profit or nonprofit, and the BCIU, just to reiterate that again. So if you have questions about which category to apply, please don't hesitate to ask a question, but please first check out our FAQs. We posted them this morning along with making the application available, but we've already found some questions coming in that will allow us to update that information and truly be a resource for you to be able to complete the application and be able to determine how much you can apply for, what programs and expenses can be applied in the application. So again, I've stressed we want to make ourselves available. We have a team here at the county that is prepared to answer any questions that you may have, whether it's a phone call, an email, or certainly by updating those FAQs. Part of our team here today is someone who has become absolutely mission critical not only to our business applications that have been put out, but certainly to these application categories as well. Justin Luce has been key in not only bringing together the community needs assessment and how we were able to actually view those results and put them into meaningful programmatic activity, but also Justin is key in how we actually developed a very easy to use and customer friendly application. Justin?
Thank you, Pam. It's very kind. So I'm just going to cover a few aspects of the technology around the CARES Act applications, just to put a little context about what you might need or what you should do if you're thinking about submitting an application. So first of all, we really leveraged the feedback that we got from the needs assessment. So thank you to anyone that submitted a needs assessment. It was very, very helpful to get the feedback on what worked with the technology, what didn't work, and we tried to take all of those suggestions and make the application process even simpler. So we really kind of stuck with the same type of fillable form. What we have here for the needs for the application is a little bit different from the needs assessment. We're using just a fillable PDF. So, you know, we definitely heard from some organizations that have some challenges around maybe some antiquated technology. We wanted to make this as simple and easy as possible. So when you go to the website and you click on the PDF application, it should open as a fillable form. If you're using a modern browser, you should be able to just go right on there and fill out the application. If you're using maybe some older technology, you might want to download that PDF and save it to your desktop. In order to make it easy, we've also provided a Word copy worksheet. So we understand that some of the questions that you're going to be answering on the application are maybe things that require you to talk to a couple of different people or maybe get some information from other folks in your organization. Might take a little bit of time and effort. That Word copy worksheet is there. We recommend that you use that Word copy worksheet first, that you fill that out in the Word copy version. And then when you're ready and have everything correct, go, open up the PDF and be prepared to submit it. After you submit that, you're going to want to save that a copy of that application, your completed application, that PDF copy. You're going to want to save that and email it to caresact@countyofberks.com. Every time you email caresact@countyofberks.com, you're going to get a reply for each of the submissions. So if you submit an application, you're going to get a reply back from caresact@countyofberks.com saying we've received the application. You're also asked as part of the application process to provide some supporting documentation so that it can be reviewed appropriately to prepare the contract. That supporting documentation can also be sent as part of an email to caresact@countyofberks.com. And we understand that there's different organizations are going to have different amount of size documents to submit as part of that verification documentation. So if you have to submit that in multiple emails, go ahead and do that. That's perfectly okay. We have a process on the back end where we'll keep all of those emails together, all that documentation together, and then kind of track that on the back end. Also, if you have a problem with email or you have a document that just for one reason or another you can't email or you run into problems with email, this happens from time to time. We definitely heard about this through the needs assessment. We also have a fax number set up. So you can fax documentation to 610-898-7460. That number is on all of the applications itself. And that's going to serve the same purpose. So if you fax documentation, we certainly prefer to get it in an email, but if you need to use the fax, we're going to track that as well. And if you do fax documentation, please also make sure you include your email address, because we will also send a confirmation for anything we receive in fax, so that you know that that we received it and that we're considering it. And that's pretty much it. There's not really a whole lot to say about the technology. Again, we tried to make this not about the technology at all. We tried to make it as simple as possible so that we can certainly meet the needs of different sized organizations with different levels of technology. The one thing, and just in closing, that I'll suggest, I think that these applications will certainly work best if you're using an actual computer. Phones and tablets are great, but probably wouldn't be the first choice to go here to fill out this application. So if you have a different choice available to you, please go ahead and try to use a desktop computer for the completion. If not, certainly contact us if you run into any technology problems. We're happy to work through any issues that that are uncovered. We'll be updating the FAQs with anything that we see, and we're here to help. So just let us know. And with that, I think I'm turning this over to Jesse Blauser.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Before I turn it back to Pam and then Jesse, so I think people have been inquiring as to why we put this into 4 categories. There's a real simple reason for that. We can actually have these volunteer review committees focus on what their strengths are, whether it's education, not-for-profits, public health, or municipalities and authorities. If we just put this out scattershot as one application, regardless of who you are, it would really get mumbo-jumboed out there. So again, there are specific categories, and we truly know that some organizations are going to be confused, not so much the municipalities and authorities, but whether I'm a not-for-profit or I'm an educational institution or a public health service. We've already heard that in the last couple days, and that can certainly be clarified. Just give us an email, tell us who your organization is, what the background is, and any pertinent data, and we can put you in the right bucket to make sure that your application is the right organization for the review committee to go through. I'm going to go back to Pam Schupp now about documents and information the applicants need to complete the application.
Thank you. For each category, there are different required documents. And under the nonprofit, education, and public health categories, the documents are fairly similar, but it does matter on the legal organization, whether or not you are a for-profit or a nonprofit. If you are a nonprofit, I do want to stress, we've tried to simplify this as much as possible, but also need to get the required documentation that we need because we are actually utilizing, though they're coming through the state, these are federal funds that we're putting out into the community. So we will need a copy of your most recent 990 filing, whether they are accountant or internally prepared audit for your organization. We do understand that not all nonprofits are large enough to merit an audit. Your 2020, to the best of your ability, your year-to-date financial statements. We also would like to know your projections from September to December. Now, that's also going to be a question on the application because, again, we're trying to collect information so that we can have a case to say we have not received enough dollars to support Berks County, and we would like to receive additional dollars, and we believe that if we can provide them with some empirical evidence, it's really going to help us be able to request those additional dollars. We need your W-9 completed, and obviously one thing that will become key is to make sure that you are signing the application, and that will be an e-signature typed in that's actually included. And then your IRS determination letter, because we do need to understand what legal formation you are. If you're a C3 in the nonprofit category or a C19, we do need to know that. So those are pretty much the documents that will be required. But one thing I wanted to stress is that across each of these categories, this program is designed to be reimbursement so that we can get the funds out to you as quickly as possible. And so what we need you to really do is be providing the documentation that supports the loss, which is your request for funds. So in many instances, we believe that your losses will be well above and beyond the amount that is available under each category. So for example, under nonprofits applying for up to $50,000, you may have experienced many more losses than that have not been covered by any other source. And we do need you to provide the documentation for that. So That's pretty much what we are looking for in municipalities. Obviously, some of those categories will not apply to you for required documents, but we certainly are asking municipalities to be providing the documentation to document their losses and to ensure that what they're requesting is not being duplicative of any other funds that they may have received. That is also part of the certification process at the end of the application, which you will be asked to verify. Those certifications will also then be part of the contract that we'll ask you to execute to ensure that we are doing the best that we can to meet the federal guidelines and state guidelines that have been imposed upon us to appropriately spend these funds and get them out into the community. So now I'd like to introduce Jess Blauser. She may become a familiar name to you if you have questions, because Jess has agreed to be our point person in and quarterback and answering and directing out questions for the program.
Thank you, Pam. Yes, as mentioned before, we're here to help. And we also encourage you to visit the website, www.countyofberks.com/cares, and review the frequently asked question and guideline documents. If you have questions after reviewing those or need any kind of clarification, please reach out to me. I can be reached at caresact@countyofberks.com. That is the email address. And I'm also available by phone, which is 610-478-6136 extension 4. And I'll be monitoring the email and my phone every day. And if translation services are needed and you need assistance filling out the application, we have partnered with the Centro Hispano. They're located at 501 Washington Street in Reading. They're open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And if you need to make an appointment or stop by, their phone number is 610-685-1260. And we want to thank our friends at the Centro Hispano for being a great partner and offering these services if need be. And back to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Jesse, so much for your efforts. And I think the takeaway today is we are here to help. This is money that is needed in our community. This board is strongly behind these categories. Initially, we put out the New Start program for businesses that there are needs in excess of $12 million just in that one New Start business program. And we also today were able to start the food insecurity program and supported Helping Harvest on a monthly basis of $600,000 a month. Again, it probably falls way short of their actual needs. It's going to make up about 50% of their total expenses out the door this year. And again, we're strongly encouraged that if more money comes our way, that some of these other holes will be filled. Again, emphasized by Pam Shook, this application is for reimbursement. It's easier to capture that you have the documentation and the bills and the invoices and everything to be reimbursed. But we also want your projection for the last quarter of the year, so we have that ready to go once December rolls around. You know how holidays get in the middle of distributing money, but we want to make sure if we get this additional allocation of money, it's going out the door rather quickly. So we have expended thus far untold millions of dollars as the county government through the Co-County Wellness Contact Tracing. Again, that started in June, has been highly successful. But we also have expended considerable money on PPE, distributed to first responders, as well as warehousing for the fall and winter flu and virus season. We also have an untold expenditure coming out in the near future for vaccination centers. So the county is looking to hopefully cover some of our costs, but certainly won't be enough to cover all the cost, which will then be borne by local taxpayers. So again, I may sound redundant, but it would certainly be nice if we received the money that Berks County should have received up front, like our larger counties to the southeast. Again, tell everyone about this program. This is not hold this to your vest. Let people know. We did put parameters on how much was going out, 50,000, 100,000, because we really don't know exactly how many groups are going to apply and how they qualify. But I want to turn this again back over to Pam Schupp, and she can go into a little more detail about how recipients will be selected and when the funds will be distributed. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you, Commissioner. It was really a privilege to be able to see community members' names come together for the various categories on the committees that will review the applications. So what we've done is put together a system wherein each of the committees will be reviewing their roles and responsibilities. They have a very quick turnaround in order to review the applications. So the applications are due no later than 5 p.m. on October 16th. As applications come in and we note their completion, they will be put into, we will make sure that everyone is in the appropriate category. If there's any question about that, we'll make sure that they're in there. And we will be able to start compiling and reviewing the attached documentation, again, to make sure that everything is complete and correct. The committees will receive the applications and they will be given the opportunity to identify any conflict of interest that they may have. So if, for example, a committee member identifies that conflict of interest, they will note that there is a conflict of interest statement that we will be asking them to execute and return to us. They will not be voting or commenting on an application for which they have a conflict of interest. After they've reviewed them individually, and they really only have a few days to do that, we've asked them to take 1 week wherein they will come together as a committee and they will be reviewing the score sheets. We've developed score sheets for each individual category. You heard me mention a little bit about that when I mentioned the nonprofits, and we have some prioritization of service programs that we're looking to fund. Doesn't mean that other nonprofits should not or could not apply. We've just identified that there are some priorities within that particular category. So we do have score sheets to try and allow our committee members to have a tool that is objective as possible to be able to rank the applications. So once that's completed, they will actually be making recommendations to our county commissioners. So each committee will be identifying the name of the nonprofit and the amount of the funding for the nonprofit, and that will be approved by the commissioners. It will be recommended to them on a Tuesday, and we will be asking them to take action on that Thursday. What that does for us at the county level internally is really kick our internal team into high gear. We will already have a template of a contract ready to go. We'll be including your scope of work and any necessary information to make sure that it's a complete contract. And we've asked for any reviews or any meetings that need to be done with our grantees within a 1 week period, so that by the end of the first full week in November, we will be in a position to begin to start to release funds. Now, one of the things I've actually clarified under the FAQ, since we've even put it out this morning, is we are really encouraging you to submit no later than December 1st the invoices and any documentation that you need in order for us to be releasing the payment to you. So originally I put in there December 1st. We certainly don't want anyone to wait. If you've got your paperwork ready and the documentation ready to go after we've notified you that we have an executed contract and we can release funds, we really encourage you to get that paperwork into us as soon as possible so that we can allow these dollars to flow as quickly as possible. So though you may hear that these funds could cover through December 30th, we're hoping that by again, doing this on a reimbursement basis and by making sure that we have all of the documentation and paperwork by December 1st, that if there would become additional funds available to Berks County, that we are well positioned and well documented to be able to show the need for those funds and hopefully be able to get some additional funds out between now and the end of 2020. I know that sounds very optimistic, but again, there is a team here at Berks County waiting to assist you in order to allow these funds to flow to your organizations.
Thank you, Pam. Again, this money belongs out in the community, most hard hit by COVID-19 and its impact. And that's what this team's ready to do. We're poised and ready to go with our volunteers on these review committees. We want to get started, and we want to let everyone know about this. So shout it from the rooftops if you can. Get it out on your social media, share it on Facebook. If you have contacts in the not-for-profit community or in the municipal community or the public health or education community, let's get these applications in. Get them looked at and vetted, and let's get this money out on the street. This Board of Commissioners, again, wonderful team to work with here. This really needs to happen and happen soon. Again, some regrets we might have along the way. We had this money since July. Why wasn't it out sooner? But you're going to see how fast it goes out in the not too distant future because we have the right team behind us now to make this work. Commissioner Leinbach.
Just to put a fine point on what you just highlighted, it is so important that we do this right, that we get it right. We make a mistake, and that mistake could cost our local taxpayers real money. So I have had the same concern. We've had the money since July, but the details are so important. We had a company reach out to us today, and they were a perfect example of the limits. These dollars are really for entities that have not already been helped by other CARES money or PPP or other types of federal programs around COVID-19. We're trying to help those that have fallen through the cracks, quite frankly. So I think it's important. You and your team have done a great job, and it is important, more important that we do it right than we do it fast.
Appreciate that. So back to Pam or Justin or Jesse or Stephanie Weaver. Stephanie, I don't know if there's anything you might want to highlight on the website that we want to just review again for the viewers. If there's any points there we missed.
I can just do
Go ahead.
a quick overview if you want to.
Okay,
Website.
that would be wonderful.
Pull it up quick, and then we'll take some questions after that. Okay, so this, if you log into www.countyofberks.com/cares, it'll bring you directly to this page. I'm sharing on my screen for IS. I don't think we're there yet.
We can see the screen.
I don't believe it's on the live feed just yet.
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. This is where it will open up to. And then you have an introduction here at the beginning, just overviewing the program, highlighting the application period. We have Jessica's information here for contact, and then the information for where the application is to be submitted. Each category has its own set of FAQs, guidelines, and actual application. So each of the categories are clearly identified here by an icon and a color, as well as the title of that category. So please just make sure when you are looking for information about the category you're applying under that you go to the correct one. The FAQs are listed here in a drop-down, as are the guidelines for each category. You can also access a printable PDF of each one. So when you click on this, it's very easy to download or print off document of the FAQs. We have the same available for the guidelines for each category. And then the final drop down for each category has the information for the actual application. The first one is the worksheet that Justin mentioned earlier. When you click on that, it's actually going to open up a Word document. which I don't think you'll be able to see right now on the screen share. And then the last one you want to do is the PDF, which is the actual application. When you click on that, this is a PDF that you can actually fill in right on the screen. So fill that out, save it, and then this is what you will be emailing back to us at caresact@countyberks.com. If you forget the URL for this page, if you're on our homepage, it'll appear here in the carousel with the logo. It will also be accessed down here under announcements. We have the links, or you can go to the How Do I section, and under that, find information on Berks County CARES Grant Program. And all of those will take you back to this main page.
Thank you. We hope we've made this as easy as possible for applicants, and we want you to get started. We think we gave you sufficient time to fill out the application. And anyone else on the team, Pam, you have some other comments you'd like to make?
Yes, Commissioner. One of the questions that has come to us, we do want to stress that faith-based organizations are able to apply for these funds. So as long as you are a 501c3, there is no exclusion. These are federal funds. There's no faith-based organizations are not excluded. So we encourage you that if you take a look at the application requirements and have any questions at all, please reach out to us. But certainly encourage faith-based organizations to apply.
Thank you, Pam. Certainly get on, navigate the website, look over the pages, look at the FAQs, get yourself comfortable, print off a copy of the application, get your documentation pulled together. It won't be that hard once you have your act together. It's almost like, I guess, filing your taxes, but I have somebody do it for me. So it's always good to be prepared and then start filling in the cells on the application and submit it. Again, I've said this before, we're here to help. This is the community's money, and it really needs to be in the community to do the work it needs to do to move us forward and rebuild Berks County. I don't see any questions unless I'm not looking in the right area.
I do have,
Thank you.
I do have two comments.
Okay, thank you.
The first is a comment from Mike Toledo, Reading, PA. He says, great information. Thank you to all for your support of the many organizations meeting the needs of our most vulnerable families in our community.
Thank you. Now I can see it.
And yes, we do have a comment from Rose Hunt, which we can reply to her after this meeting.
Right.
We will, yep, we'll reply to her after. It's just a question that she had about how to get something, so.
Wonderful. Again, I want to emphasize that this is going to strictly be a non-political process. You know, politicians get a bad name these days, but we have trusted people in the community. We have trusted employees here, which will keep this out of the area of the three commissioners. We want this to be as open as transparent as possible, and we know it's going to be leading to a real positive outcome when we receive these requests and approve them, and then once contracts and paperwork is signed, the money's going to go out the door. So I don't want to overemphasize that enough, but don't wait. Get your information, get your documentation. Like I said, review the website, look at the FAQ, look at the application you feel best applies to you. If you're not sure which category you fall under, please reach out to the email address or Jessie, and she'll certainly put you in the right direction. We don't want people fumbling around. We certainly want to help people every step of the way. It's been a hard year for everybody, so we don't make your life any harder than it's already been. Anyone else have comments? Anything we didn't cover? Anything we missed? Okay. With that, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Again, the team assembled to do this work, Herculean effort, working a lot of extra time, and it doesn't go unnoticed. And to my colleagues for their support of this effort. We're all going to come out of this better at the end. We just need to go through this and make sure this works and goes into the proper agencies, organizations that have needed it most in our community. So with that, we're going to sign off today, and thank you so much for your attendance, and any follow-up questions or comments, we're here for you. Thank you.